All right, let's dive right into the modern financial world. It's this wild place where fortunes can be made and, let's be honest, lost in the blink of an eye. What we're going to do today is untangle two totally different philosophies that drive it all: patient investing versus high stakes gambling. And you know what? That line between the two, it's never been blurrier. So, to really get a handle on this divide, let's meet our two main players. First up, we've got Elias. He's all about buying the actual business, a piece of a real productive company. And then you have his nephew, Leo. For him, it's not about the business at all. It's about betting on the mood of the crowd. Their playbooks are on completely different planets. Elias, yeah, he's definitely what you'd call old school. When he buys a stock, he sees it as actual ownership. You know, a share in the factories, the patents, the brand itself. He's the guy who'll actually sit down and read those thick, kind of boring annual reports because he genuinely wants to know if the company he's partnering with is healthy for the long haul. And then there's Leo. He lives and breathes on his smartphone, right? Just glued to those charts flickering green and red. He couldn't care less about things like profit margins or some dusty old business model. Nope. His entire game is about one thing: momentum. He's just trying to catch a wave of social media hype, ride it as high as it'll go, and hopefully get out before it all comes crashing down. So that brings up a pretty big question, right? How did Leo's way of thinking get so popular so fast? Well, it's because technology has completely transformed the market into, well, what you could call a digital casino. The core idea behind this whole shift is something called gamification. Basically, the people designing these financial apps have borrowed a ton of tricks straight from the playbooks of video games and social media. They're using these little psychological triggers to make trading feel less like a serious, heavy financial decision and a lot more like a super addictive, fast-paced game on your phone. And you can see how it's all engineered, right? Take zero commissions, that just removes any reason to pause and think. You make a successful trade, and boom, digital confetti explodes on your screen, giving you that little dopamine rush. And what about that giant, satisfying buy button? It feels way more like you're hitting spin on a slot machine than making a calculated investment. It's all designed to make you act fast and on impulse. Oh, and this isn't some solo activity either. Technology connects millions of traders, just like Leo, into what's basically a giant hive. Think about those forums on Reddit or the constant chatter on X. They become these digital echo chambers where the story, the narrative, becomes way more important than the actual business fundamentals. And it's this hive mind that's given us the whole meme stock phenomenon. You've seen it: a struggling video game store, maybe a movie theater chain that's on the ropes, and suddenly their stock price just goes to the moon. It's not because their business suddenly got better, no way. It's because the meme, the story that everyone was telling, became more powerful than the cold, hard reality of their balance sheet. Now here's the thing. While traders like Leo feel totally empowered, like they're the little guys finally fighting back against the system, Elias knows there are hidden rules to this game. And just like in any casino, we all know who really wins in the end. And this leads to a really important question. I mean, all these apps are yelling about free trades and zero commissions, but we've all heard that old saying, right? If you're not paying for the product, you are the product. So how on earth are these companies making their money? Well, the answer is a system called payment for order flow. When Leo hits that big green buy button, his app doesn't just send the order to the stock exchange. It sells his order, along with thousands of others, to these giant high-speed trading firms. And those firms get a sneak peek at all these buy orders just milliseconds before the rest of the market. And what do those firms do with that information? They use high-frequency trading algorithms. We're talking about supercomputers that can execute thousands of trades in literally the blink of an eye. They don't care about the memes, they don't care about the hype. They are built to profit from the very chaos and the tiny price movements that the retail crowd is creating. And this quote from Elias just nails it. You think you're the predator, but you are the liquidity. So many retail traders think they're out there, hunting the big hedge funds. But in reality, they're providing the liquidity. They are the raw material that these incredibly sophisticated algorithms are designed to trade against. At the end of the day, a game that's built on nothing but hype and momentum is just like a giant game of musical chairs. It's a lot of fun while the music's playing, but, eventually, it has to stop. So Leo was riding this incredible wave of meme stock mania, and he was using borrowed money from his broker. It's called trading on margin. And just like that, he became a millionaire. At least on paper. His screen was glowing with a seven-figure number. It must have felt absolutely real. But then, the sentiment shifted. And the crash, it was immediate, and it was brutal. The hive mind flipped from euphoria to pure panic. And get this, the very same algorithms that made money off the chaos on the way up, they accelerated the crash on the way down, creating this waterfall of selling. And because Leo was playing with borrowed money, he got the one thing every trader dreads, a margin call. His broker basically called and said, "You need to deposit more cash, right now, to cover your massive losses." He didn't have it, and so they just forcibly sold all of his positions. In just a few hours, his entire $1 million paper fortune was gone, wiped out. Okay, so let's get to the final lesson here. Let's see how this whole cautionary tale wraps up and what it tells us about a more sustainable way of thinking about all this. Elias's wisdom really just cuts right to the heart of what Leo was doing. Leo was playing a game called the greater fool theory. The whole idea is that it doesn't matter if you buy something that's wildly overpriced, as long as you can find a greater fool to sell it to for an even higher price. But as Elias points out, the problem is that eventually you run out of fools, and you're the one left holding the bag. And this chart just lays it all out so clearly. Look at the difference. Elias, his goal was long-term wealth creation, and his basis was the actual value of the business. Leo, his goal was seeking adrenaline, and his basis was short-term price momentum, driven by social media. Their entire worldview, their whole framework, was just completely different. So for Leo, the path back meant he had to learn a completely new language. I'm not talking about the language of memes and rocket ship emojis. I'm talking about the language of business value. Things like PE ratios, free cash flow, margin of safety, the stuff that tells you what a business is actually worth. And really, this is the key takeaway from all of this. The most powerful force for building wealth isn't some viral tweet or a coordinated buying frenzy. It's the slow, steady, almost boring magic of compound interest. It's the engine that works quietly in the background when you own good businesses and just give them time. So that really just leaves us with one final, crucial question to think about. The neon lights of that digital casino, they're always on, always flashing, always promising you quick, easy money. And it's up to every single one of us to decide, are you there to play the game, or are you there to invest?
Please like and subscribe.